ValveTime.net.
Hi, and welcome to the ValveTime News. Each week we'll bring you the biggest talking points regarding Valve and the community. I'm Dietrich Ginocchio, and I'll be bringing you the news this week while our resident presenter James Rossi enjoys a short holiday away. Now the news. We noticed a number of users commenting on last week's video to complain about the lack of news regarding the 17th birthday of the Team Fortress series, which is usually celebrated every year on August the 24th. Well, good news for you guys, as, while Valve were a little late to the party this year, they did eventually celebrate the event on August the 27th with a game update and a pair of blog posts to the Team Fortress website. The first blog post, entitled Happy Not At All Late 17th Birthday, poked fun at the ValveTime-esque delay before announcing a game update which would introduce several new features, the most notable of which are chemistry sets. Chemistry sets allow players to complete a set of preset item inputs in order to generate a new tool item known as a Strangifier, which, as you can probably guess, can be applied to a specific hat or weapon to alter the item's type to the kill tracking Strange variant, significantly increasing the item's usefulness and its value. Alongside the introduction of new crate types, a number of gameplay improvements, and numerous bug fixes, the update also introduced alternate 3D replacements for the player's status panel in the bottom left of the in-game HUD. The new replacement, which can be toggled on or off in the game's advanced options, replaces the much older static 2D HUD with an animated 3D view which displays the player's class with all of their currently equipped hats, weapons, and miscellaneous items. While this new 3D view is a nice addition, we should stress that the effect is not recommended for older computers, as it may hamper the performance of less powerful machines. Sometime later, the team released another blog post entitled Team Fortress Comics No. 1, which announced the start of a brand new 6-part comic book series set in the Team Fortress universe. While only the first part is currently available, Valve announced that a new edition would be released every 2 weeks on a bi-monthly schedule, meaning the series should conclude sometime in early November. The post announced that the series would feature the whole Team Fortress cast before confirming that at least one of them will be killed off at some point. The first part, known as Ring of Fired, opens with Saxton Hale squaring off against his arch-nemesis Gray Man and his army of evil robotic replicas for Man vs. Machine. We won't say any more for fear of spoiling it for those who want to check it out but have yet to do so. Valve also confirmed that, unlike previous comics, this series is not directly tied to any upcoming update, but whether or not this is some kind of elaborate ruse to throw us off remains to be seen. The next edition should be released sometime around September the 10th, so we highly recommend heading on over to the Team Fortress 2 blog to catch up on the series with the 68-page comic if you're looking to stay up to date with the game's expanded universe. While this was an unusually busy week for Team Fortress 2, Dota 2's weekly patch was quite the opposite. The update, which was released straight to the main game client on Wednesday, featured no new heroes, game modes, or substantial features, and instead focused on fixing a number of issues in-game and on the menu's UI. Examples of minor new features include a new audio file designed to highlight when a player consumes Roshan's cheese, and an experimental player perspective directed mode for the Dota TV spectator system. The 4 bounties for the Interactive Compendium Fantasy Challenge were also released, as we predicted on the show last week. However, we wrongly assumed that the bounties would contain brand new items by joking that they would be worth the wait. The items in question have yet to be revealed or included in the game files at the current time, but we're pretty sure they'll be worth the wait. Each of the 4 bounties, which are currently being shown on screen, contains a single item from the game's existing roster at a set rarity determined by the amount of points earned by the player's fantasy team during the International 3 event. The rarity of the awarded item increases with each bounty type, so level 1 will only provide players with common items, while levels 2, 3, and 4 will award uncommon, rare, and mythical items respectively. While the awarded items are not brand new, they do feature a unique and distinctive text stamp which reads, "The Compendium Fantasy Challenge 2013, allowing players to identify which weapons, items, or couriers were provided from the bounties themselves. If you're interested in learning more about this week's unusually small Dota 2 update, be sure to head on over to Cyborg Matt's patch analysis or the Dota 2 Wiki's official changelog. This week saw Left 4 Dead's return to the headlines in an attempt to wrap up a few things left open after the community update and the subsequent release of the original Francis model back in mid-August. The team uploaded a brand new blog post to the Left 4 Dead website, entitled "The Gang is Getting Back Together," which opens by announcing the release of the original models for the rest of Left 4 Dead's cast, including Zoe, Bill, and Lewis, all of which are now available over on the Steam Workshop alongside the previously released model for Francis. As we mentioned a few weeks ago, the models were all created during the development of the original Left 4 Dead and were shown off in promotional videos before being replaced with the current versions of the characters prior to the game's release in 2008. While they were digging around in the old Valve archives, the team rediscovered a number of assets created during the game's development, including a pair of unused blue and yellow color variants for Zoe and an extremely early character concept sheet dating back to September 2005. We have recently come to learn that the blue and yellow variants for Zoe, currently being shown on screen, were actually part of an unreleased game mechanic which allowed multiple players to select the same character at the same time. Each different character would feature a slightly modified model, in this case alternate jacket colors, in order to avoid confusion while trying to quickly identify players. We can only imagine these models were dropped when the mechanic was removed sometime during development, ultimately forcing players to play as multiple characters in a more realistic fashion. More interestingly, the character design sheet provides us with an in-depth look at one of the very first designs for the group. Bill, shown here on the left of the image, appears to have started out as a middle-aged police officer, rather than a retired Vietnam veteran. Francis, shown to the right of Bill, appears relatively similar to his final design, although with a more generic, tough guy appearance. Zoe's original design, which is shown to the right of Francis, appears as the most disjointed of the group and actually features more in common with Left 4 Dead 2's Rochelle than the Zoe we all know and love. The original design for Lewis, shown on the right of the image, is also strikingly different from the final model as, while his clothing is still noticeably similar to that of your typical office worker, he appears to wear glasses and to be of Caucasian descent rather than African American. Several keen-eyed members of our community have pointed out that the original design for Lewis appears to have been influenced by Michael Douglas's appearance in the 1993 film Falling Down. But how intentional this was remains to be seen. At the base of the blog post, the Valve team have also posted a few highlights from an internal development changelog dating back to January the 25th, 2006, over 2.5 years before the game would finally be released. The changelog reveals that the incapacitation mechanic and the checkpoint-based safe house system were introduced into the game at the same time, while melee weapons were actually dropped from the game for an unknown reason. As we all know, melee weapons eventually returned to the series in 2009 with the release of Left 4 Dead 2, but if you'd like to take a closer look at the other changelog notes included with this blog post, we recommend heading on over to the Left 4 Dead website for an interesting trip down memory lane. A little over 1 year ago, Valve released Steam Greenlight, a new feature which allowed Steam users to discuss potential game titles while giving the community a decisive vote regarding which games may be introduced into the Steam store. Now, in August 2013, Valve have celebrated the first anniversary of the service with a variety of updates for Greenlight, the first of which appeared in the form of a new batch of Greenlit titles. While we usually don't talk about every Greenlit title here on the show, we thought it was important to mention this particular update as the batch featured an astonishing 100 approved titles, bringing the total number of Greenlit titles to 260. On the official announcement page, Valve stated that this batch was a special case, as the team are looking to stress test a number of recently updated developer tools which they hope will streamline the release process somewhat. Several examples of game and software titles included with this batch include 8-Bit MMO, Epic, and Movie Writer Pro. One day later, on August the 29th, Valve announced the Greenlight 1-year anniversary sale, a major Steam sale focusing entirely on titles which have been introduced to the service by Greenlight and the community over the past year. The sale, which began on August the 29th and will run until September the 2nd at 10 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time, features major price reductions of up to 75% on 50 Greenlit titles, including the likes of Rogue Legacy, Bleed, Evoland, McPixel, Surgeon Simulator 2013, Game Dev Tycoon, the fan-favorite Euro Truck Simulator 2, and many more. For those who rely on our news videos for announcement, we'd recommend checking out the sale as soon as possible to avoid missing out, since we realize the sale will be almost over by the time this video airs around September the 1st. If vocal commenters are to be believed, a lot of you guys only really watch our videos to check for the most recent and up-to-date news regarding the Half-Life series. Well, we have quite the exciting treat for you this week. The team at Valve recently uploaded a new version of the Half-Life SDK to Github, and yes, that's Half-Life 1, as in the game from 1998. This new version allows modders to port their creations to the Linux and Mac operating systems in a manner similar to the functionality which was added to the Source SDK a little while back. The SDK can be accessed using the Half-Life SDK program listed in Steam's Tools section, while all of the new code and recently updated content can be found on the Valve GitHub page. With Team Fortress 2, Dota 2, Half-Life, and Left 4 Dead all getting some time in the spotlight this week, how could Valve possibly leave out Counter-Strike Global Offensive? On August the 29th, the CSGO team uploaded a new blog post to announce the release of a new update, which primarily focuses on reducing the noise output of those pesky chickens and the introduction of name tags, which allow players to engrave custom names onto their weaponry in a manner similar to the item counterparts in Dota 2 and Team Fortress 2. A second blog post was uploaded 3 days later on August the 31st, which takes an extensive look at the massive number of upcoming Counter-Strike Global Offensive esporting tournaments set to happen between now and the end of the year. While we aren't going to go into too many details regarding this particular post, a few highlights did catch our eye, including the $15,000 event at DreamHack, the $25,000 cup at ESWC, and the $100,000 MSI Beat It event in Shanghai, China. If you're interested in following the Counter-Strike professional scene, you might want to check out the blog post, as we're sure it'll have something for you. While we don't have anything noteworthy to report on regarding Valve Pipeline, the intern team did release the second edition of the Pipeline newsletter earlier this week. The second edition features a much more clean and professional layout when compared to the first edition, and focuses on recapping several of the team's recent updates, including their overhauled website and video interviews. The email unfortunately contains little to no new information besides the announcement that the team's next interview will feature Jeremy Bennett as he discusses concept art. Check your email inbox for a closer look at the full newsletter, as it should have arrived by this point, even though some users on our YouTube channel and Facebook wall are claiming that they have yet to receive the first or second edition. Since the start of this episode was primarily focused on Team Fortress 2, we thought we would bring the episode full circle by recommending the recently released trailer for End of the Line, an upcoming 8-minute Team Fortress 2 themed short created entirely in Source Filmmaker by James McVinney and company. James McVinney shot to instant community fame last year with the release of Practical Problems, one of the very first hyper-popular SFM shorts to be released after the tool's official launch in July 2012. As you have probably already noticed from the footage currently being shown on screen, the trailer is absolutely amazing, and we seriously cannot recommend it enough if you are a fan of either Team Fortress 2 or Source Filmmaker shorts. Even if you aren't a fan of either of those things, just go and watch it. We promise you won't regret it. The full short, set to be around 8 minutes in length, is scheduled for release sometime around the end of the year, and we'll be sure to let you know when the time comes. That is, if we can tear ourselves away from hammering YouTube's replay button long enough to report on the release. For now, you can check out the trailer via a link in the video description, which is listed alongside links to every other topic we have discussed this week, including full write-ups on ValveTime.net, blog posts, update changelogs, and much more. This kind of high-quality SFM short got us thinking about Valve's own upcoming 15-minute Team Fortress 2 short, which is apparently still in development. For Valve's own film, we want to hear which era of the Team Fortress 2 universe you would personally like to see the video take place in. Would you prefer to see Red and Blue battle it out in 1968 like they used to in the old Meet the Team shorts? Or would you prefer to see the classes band together in 1971 to battle Gray Man and his robots in a manner similar to the Man vs. Machine promotional trailer? Let us know in the comments below. That brings us to the end of another very busy week of Valve news. Feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more ValveTime videos, news, and reviews coming soon. Stay tuned for the upcoming and long overdue return of ValveTime Top 5 later this week, as we are currently making the finishing touches to Episode 4. While you're waiting for the release, be sure to head on over to our Dota 2 Announcer Pack submission over on the Steam Workshop to rate us positively. James will be back to present the news roundup from now on, but you never know. You might just hear from me again sooner than you think. Thanks for watching, and thanks for bearing with me while James was away. Bye for now.